Maybe there is no Gemara Hanuka. That's a separate share. Maybe next week. Why does Rabbi leave it out of the Mishnayos? And there's only a couple of dafim in Gemara Shabbos in the second parak. Why is it put in Shabbos? Because when the Gemara talks about the type of oils and wicks you could use for Shabbos, so it goes on to about Chaf Aleph to about Chaf Daled, about 3 blat, has some very interesting Gemara on Chanukah. As Rav Shechter likes saying, there's more shtickle Torahs in the 3 blat of Chanukah, meaning in all these Sfarim, than there are in the whole Purim. Because actually Purim, it's misleading. It seems like there's a whole Masechta on it, but there's really not. The beginning of Megillah is basically about Chanukah, then it gets into the Ein Ben. There's a lot of interesting Agadah at the end of the first parak, but basically then it talks about Inyanei Tefillah, Kriyas HaTorah, and then Kedushas Beis HaKnesses. There's actually not that much on Purim. So in this 3 blat, it's packed. So the Gemara on Chaf Aleph Amid Beis, when it discusses the mitzvah of Chanukah, so it quotes the Brisa, mitzvah. So when is the mitzvah? Mitzvah mishetishka hachama. The mitzvah is mishetishka hachama. We'll explain what that means in a second. Ad shetichlo regel min hashuk. The time of lighting Chanukah candles is shkiyas hachama until there's no one left on the street. So what does it mean mishetishka hachama? So actually it's a general machlokas rishonim in general when the Gemara talks about mishetishka hachama, literally shkiyas hachama we always call sunset, but in general when the Gemara uses this language, what does it mean? To the Rambam Shita, and this is the Minhag Hagra as well, shkiyas hachama means sunset. The mitzvah to light your Chanukah candles begins at sunset, and that's why the briskers, gras, grunics, and others are machmir or mekel, we'll see, but either way they light. We see it's not really a kula. Even if you're going to light at shkia, no one's going to say it still has to go to asaticha regam and ashuk. So you can't use the regular box of Chanukah candles if you're going to be machmir if you're going to follow the gra and the Rambam. You're going to need oil that has to last, or a long candle that has to last until asaticha regam and ashuk. But that's the Rambam's opinion, Shkia. And the Mordechai and other Rishonim, no, it means Say Techochavim. So Shkia, the end of Shkia. It's actually a third sheet that they bring down. The beginning of, like Rabbeinu Tam, what they call Shkia Shni. In other words, in the general rule is what we call sunset. We assume that's sunset. That's the Vilna Gaon sunset. But Rabbeinu Tam holds that Shkia is really 58.5 minutes after what we call sunset. In other words, there's a Gemara in Psachim and there's a Gemara in Shabbos. When is exactly how long is Ben Hashmashas? So one Gemara says 4 meal, 4 times 18, that's where the 72 comes. And one other Gemara says 3/4 of a meal. So how the way Rabbeinu Tam learns is basically if you take 3/4 of 18 minus the 72, about 58.5 minutes. That's what he calls shkia. So there are some shitas who bring down, if you hold them in shkia, that's what we call shkia, the shkia shni at 50.5 minutes, or nightfall. But so that's the machlokas rishonim mishatishka chama. Halach l'maisa, so the different minhagim. Most assume you light at seitach chochavim, but the Rambam and the grunics, briskers, the machmir, or they follow the sheet of the Rambam and they light at Shkia Sachama. Rav Moshe Feinstein has an interesting compromise, which he talks about New York City, but Toronto shouldn't be much different either. That, as always, there's not one set time. Of course, the calendar has to give an exact time. So whether it's 9:22, whatever, they're following a certain sheet, and when they put the times in. So but it's not like, per se, if you did something 9:24 to the 9:25, doesn't necessarily mean you ended something early. It depends on which sheet you're following. So what Ramosha writes is that we know on a biblical mitzvah, Savik Daraisa L'chumra. We always go L'chumra. On a rabbinical mitzvah, Savik Darabanan L'kula. So Chanukah is a pure Darabanan, And therefore he says, since there are those shitas that say about 20-25 minutes after sunset, what we call sunset, is already Seitzach Chavim, so we got to be near Chanukah already. He thinks that's the ideal time to light. So you can light about 20-25 minutes after Shkia, and therefore you're getting your choshech in, and even though that's what they also say, the post come right by Sfiras Omer. Sfiras Omer is a shiloh, it's not right to Drabanan. Many assume it's Drabanan, that's why many say also if you hold Sfiras Drabanan, there's an issue of Tamimis, you want to make it as complete as possible, because Tosis writes you begin at Shkia. We don't pass in that way, but the earliest we could start in the day, so therefore that's what many poskim say also, that if you assume Sfiras Drabanan, like many do, about 25 minutes after Shkia, again it depends what time of the year and where you are, but the point being is, it's not a set time.
Why is that being Mako? You're choosing, the guy who says the Gra would not say that you have to wait the 25 minutes.
No, he's not being Mako, he's just saying that you're ready, he's saying in terms of Choshech, you cover all the Shitas. Right,
you're not, it's not a Shita.
No, I mean...
You're taking the Gra's Shita, but the Gra wouldn't hold the...
I know, but you're right. I know, but it's the earlier, you're not taking a Shkia, but obviously then the Gra would say a minute after Shkia is the next...
Right.
No, I'm saying the other ones would say that the earlier the better.
Why can't you take the Gra's Shita? This is after sunset. Why,
no, you can't.
If you're doing a Kula, why would you have
if you're not. If you're going, I'm saying if you accept... No, if you're taking if you're lighting oil, I guess it gets... Well, the reason why I'll get to is because the question is, could you light before Misha Tishka Chama?
That's a separate question.
No, it depends on this issue. If you hold, I'll get to that shaila in a minute. But if you hold, you can't. In other words, the Gemara is telling me the Zman HaMitzvah. So if you hold the Zman is Seitz, then you can't light it at Shkia. So Ramosh is saying regarding for the sheet of Seitz, at least you're playing it safe now. If you light 25 minutes, you're covering everyone. Meaning.
So that's not the question. Does anybody say that we're talking about Seitz? No.
Yes.
We're talking about Shkia, whatever.
No.
However you define Shkia.
No, that's what. No. But it's issue. When the Gemara says Misha Tishka Chama, what does that mean?
Does anybody hold, for instance, if you were holding Rabbi Natam's Shita, would you hold 72 minutes or 58 minutes? 58 and a half minutes?
Yeah, it would be... No, so if you hold it means Shkia, you'd hold it 58 and a half.
Right.
If you hold it Seish, you'd hold it 72 minutes.
Does anybody hold 72?
Yeah, I'm saying...
Oh, they're going to say that you actually have to wait for Seish?
That's what many... I'd say the majority view is most people wait until Seish. They don't light Chanukah candles at Shkia.
But who waits to Seish after 72 minutes?
No, I'm saying... Well, I'm sure the Hasidim do, but I don't think they go...
For Chanukah?
What, they go with the 25 minutes?
No, but they go with 42 minutes.
Okay, yeah, so... Okay, I don't know... In yeshivas, I didn't know if they did it in, but you're right.
Yeshivas, they don't do the 72 minutes on Hanukkah. They wait 72 minutes on Shabbos. But because of Hanukkah, they're doing Mako and they say only 42 minutes.
But do they? Okay, I'm saying if they are...
Off the Mariv and they wind up Mariv.
That's the whole...
No, they Mariv at 10 o'clock.
No, that was the whole question we had every year when I was learning at the Kollel YU, if Shaftis Kollel, so every year, because I guess the Zman of the Seder was like from 3 to 6:30, and let's say candlelighting was earlier, so we always put up a sign every year. I think he quoted the Meiri, he quoted from the Rav, that basically don't stop your learning, you don't have to lie early. The question is, should you give up the optimal time and keep on learning, or stop? So Rav Shecht always quoted from the Rav, he actually wrote it, he put it on the bulletin board in the back of the Beis HaMedrash, that he didn't tell you what to do, he just said, the quoted the Meiri into the Rav Soloveitchik recommend when we open up the Kollel, we asked them this question, and the Rav said better to wait until you finish learning to go back. Interesting, someone told me that something happened also in Gush, but Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, and he told them that they should light right away. But it's not necessarily a contradiction, because in Gush, everyone's living right there. So let's say going from the Beit, I've been in Gush for a long time, but I'm sure going to your room or wherever they were lighting wasn't too far away. But obviously in YU you have married people who are living at it.
They live right outside the Beit.
Okay, yeah, so they were saying, so therefore that wouldn't be a kasha. I'm saying, the Rav would agree also if you could just if you're lighting candles where you're learning, then you're so that's what he always quoted, I think, to Meiri, if I remember correctly, and he said this to wait till. In fact, interesting on this on a parenthetical part while we're on it is Rabbi Yaakov. The question is let's say should you light at the optimal time, or let's say your wife is going to come home an hour later, so should you light? Because should you wait for her, or should you light at 5:30 or whatever time it might be? So Rabbi Yaakov quotes the Gemara. We'll get to maybe another time. The Gemara on Chaf Dalet, Chaf Gimel, about if you only have enough candle, either for Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah. Not a 21st century question, fortunately, but when you're times when they were afflicted with poverty, or the usual derech of the Gemara is. They're just giving you a extreme case. You know what to do. You learn the principles. Whether it's reality or not, the question was, if you only have enough candle for Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah, what wins? The Gemara says Ner Shabbos wins because of Shalom Bayis. So Rabbi Yaakov said if Shalom Bayis would negate, in that scenario, you would be exempt from the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah completely. So he says for Shalom Bayis you could wait another hour and light. And also it might be different with Bizman Hazeh anyway. We'll get to it might not be the same time because that'll be light inside. There might be a different Zman anyway. But those are the sheets. In other words, whether if you hold the shkiyah, so you're either going to light at what we call sunset, or you're going to light at 58.5 minutes, whichever shkiyah. If you hold it say, so then depending which shita you hold when it's over, either 72 minutes. And again, obviously, I think you could light well before 72, but I don't know if they do that. And not because of that, because anyway, today you have what to rely on to light later anyway, so maybe it's not the same issue anymore. But either way, that's what the Gemara says, Mitzvasa mishatishka chama ad shetichlo regel min hashuk. So the Gemara says, Gemara is talking about another context, the halacha of, let's say your candle goes out. Am I obligated to relight it? Kavsa zakirkla, or kavsa eno zakirkla. Let's say you lit your, on a regular Wednesday night, you're lighting your Hanukkah candles at the appropriate time, whichever it is, Shkiyah Zayitz, whatever shita you follow, and whatever 10 minutes later, the candle goes out. So that's a machlokas in the Gemara, kavsa zakirkla, kavsa, we paskin, you don't have to relight, and we'll even see maybe even Erev Shabbos, but kavsa ein zakirkla, you don't have to relight. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a proof to any of that. That's not what this Gemara is telling. The Gemara is telling me the e lo adlik madu. Why is the Gemara telling me the time from Shkiyas Achama until Ticha Regel Ben Ashuk? It must be telling me the e lo adlik, if one has not lit and it's still in between this time period, you could still light. That's one opinion in the Gemara. Or the Gemara is saying inami l'shiure. Well, no, it's nothing to do with, the Gemara is not telling me what time I have to light. The Gemara is telling me whatever time that is, but when you do light, l'shiur, you have to have enough oil, which we assume about chatzi shah, but you have to have it has to lit enough time, which is ticha regel min hashuk, from shkiyah until ticha regel min hashuk. So that's the 2 days in the Gemara, whether they're mutually exclusive or an agreement, that's a separate discussion Tosfos deals with. But that's what the Gemara says, that either it's telling me the Zman, if I haven't lit then I can still light, or the Gemara is telling me this how much I have to light. So that it's nothing to do with Kavsa and Zakakla. So the Gemara, so that's the question. So we'll deal with both parts. I guess we'll start off with we have 2 questions to deal with. What happens if you light before Shkiyas Achama? And what happens if you light after Tichel Regel Ben Ashuk? So I guess we'll start with the after question first, and we'll take it from there. So the Gemara says, Asher Tichel Regel Ben Ashuk. Okay. But I get home, and it's after Tichel Regel Ben Ashuk. I'm talking Bizman HaGemara now. We'll get to Bizman Hazeh. Bizman HaGemara, if you miss Asher Tichel Regel Min Hashuk, then what? So the Rambam says, that's what. If you miss the mitzvah, that's it. If you miss the tichla regel min hashuk, you can no longer do the mitzvah. At least tonight, you lost out on the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. The Rashba says, what are you talking about, Rambam? Aren't you familiar with the Mishnah Megillah? The Mishnah Megillah in the Lamed tells us that any mitzvah which is a night, it's kol halayla. In other words, it's not. With this, like if you read the Megillah, it might be optimal to read the Megillah at Tzeit or right afterwards or before Chatzos, but everyone agrees you can have all night to read the Megillah if you have to. So what's the Rambam talking about? Ideally, I agree, you should light in between this time period. But if you miss it, what's the big deal? You do the mitzvah like any other mitzvah, you do it after the Zman. That's the Machlokas Rambam and the Rashba. There seems to be, the Nakudas HaMachlokas seems to be between the Rambam and the Rashba is, the Rambam seems to learn the mitzvah is Persumei Nisa. The mitzvah of part of the inherent institution of when the Chachamim made a Takan Rabbanan, you have to light a Ner Chanukah which has a Persumei Nisa. If you can't do that, so you can't fulfill them. A Ner Chanukah by itself doesn't work. You need a Ner Chanukah which creates a Persumei Nisa. And if once you miss Tikkun Regel and Ashuk, it's over. And the Rashba clearly disagrees. He says, no, they're two separate institutions. We have the regular Takana D'Rabbanan. You have to light Neiros Chanukah, period. Then the rabbis added to enhance this mitzvah, this Takana D'Rabbanan, you should do it in the ideal way, which is Persumei Nisa. But if you can't do Persumei Nisa, you still have the basic Takana D'Rabbanan of lighting Ner Chanukah. In fact, this could be the issue as well. Bizman Hazeh is a machlokas among the poskim. Let's say a person gets home at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. No one's outside, no one's up. And, people discuss waking others. I don't recommend that. But definitely not your parents. But so let's assume there's no one to wake up. So what should you do? Should you lie with the bracha or not? So it's a machlokas poskim. The Mishnah Berurah seems to say hamavarach lo hifsid. You don't lose. In other words, he says it's okay. But what's in the Kudas HaMachlokas? It seems to be this Machlokas Rambam and Rashba. In other words, is could you have a mitzvah of Ner Chanukah without Persumei Nisa? Is that inherent to the Takana D'Rabbanan? Or Persumei Nisa l'chud and the mitzvah D'Rabbanan l'chud? So we'll see. Those are the two shitas Zman HaGemara. Rambam says you missed it, end of the game, for that you missed that night. The Rashba says go ahead and do it. There's a third shita, Tosfos. Tosfos says it depends on these 2 days that I just quoted in the Gemara. It depends. If the first shita which says, what's the telling me, Misha Tishkat Chama, Asha Tichel Regel Min Ashok, the ego Adgad Madlik, that seems to be like the Rambam. That's it. Once you miss that time period, it's over. And the Rashba seems to be going, he doesn't quote the two, but Tosfos is Mesupik. It seems, Tosfos' doubt seems to be the Machlokas here, the Rambam and Rashba. He says, according to Inam L'Shiurei, why not? The Gemara never gave me a time, but just said how long it has to go. So Tosfos is a Mesupik, so he says you should light Chanukah candles without a bracha, the Torah Suffolk. Interesting, we don't necessarily pass him this way, but it's interesting, more could see the Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who says even though normally we have a principle Suffolk brachas b'hakel, that when it comes to a Suffolk bracha, we say better to do the mitzvah without the bracha because most of the time it's not likuva. In other words, if I put on tefillin without making a bracha, I still have my mitzvah of tefillin. If I put on I shake the lulav, I always get the mitzvah. It's a nice thing to make it. It's one of the nice things. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to make the bracha. So the more Katzia writes, he thinks we don't pass in this way, but it's a good sheet to know, and you could use it for a sniff in other areas. Rabbi Yaakov Emden says he holds by a suffix by Chanukah you have to make a bracha. You could discuss because what's cool, what's the chumrah? He says the Gemara talks about you have to light Chanukah candles. It can't be too close to the ground, and it can't be too high. In other words, it has to be nicker that you're lighting not for your own light that you're reading or eating. The yidaf you're doing l'shem ner Chanukah. So how do you do that? Rabbi Yaakov, by making the bracha. Asher kishem over tzivano. So without the bracha, he says you don't. Normally, even though there are some sheep, normally we pass in your yotzi the mitzvah without the bracha. So safek bracha is lahaka. But Rabbi Yaakov Emden claims dafka by Chanukah, even in a safek, the chumrah is you got to make the bracha because in this case the bracha you need the bracha to fulfill that. We don't pass it that way, but
even so, it's subject to Rabbanan anyway.
No, but he's saying the whole right. But he's just saying the whole takana of lighting there. In other words, you're not doing the mitzvah. He's saying it's no suffix. If you don't make the bracha, he's saying you don't get the mitzvah. That's it. We don't pass him to say, he's just saying the bracha is part of the Persumei Nisa to show that it's good. It's a bit chiddush. I'm just saying the idea is true. We don't.
The tax is still a suffix. You wouldn't light anyway.
Right. I'm just saying it. But so even also, I'm
you're
just
saying if in the right time you lit and you didn't say bracha, you say you wouldn't be osam.
Right. That's what Whether he's saying stam in the shtickle lumdis v'yam, or he actually would say halach. It's halach l'maisa. We definitely don't pass in that way. We assume the bracha is like any other bracha. You should do it. But it's a whole discussion in the poskim. Let's say you lit the candle, or either way. Let's say you lit your candle and you remember after you to make a bracha, or let's say you lit some of the candles and you still have a couple left. So that's, what do you do? Could you make a bracha once you already lit the first candle or all candles? So the poskim discusses a major machlokas rishonim in general. Forget about Hanukkah. Can I make a bracha after I do a mitzvah? We'll find this machlokas rishonim in Hilchos Shchita between the Rambam and the Or Zarua. So as a general machlokas, the Rambam holds you only can make a birkas hamitzvah before the mitzvah. And the Or Zarua says no. Birkas HaMitzvah isn't limited. We do make it over L'Asiyasan, but if you can't do it before, you do it after. What's the Nakudas HaMachokis? In other words, the Rambam seems to say that the bracha, the purpose of a bracha is a hachana for the mitzvah, to get you the proper kavanah. That's what the Noda B'Yehuda was always against the Hasidim for adding hinei muchal mezumans to all the mitzvahs. He says that's what the bracha is for. That's what you're supposed to prepare. That's the hachana. So if the bracha is for preparing, then once you do the mitzvah, there's no sense in making the bracha after. But Or Zarua seems to say the bracha is coming to enhance the mitzvah. Ideally before, but it still plays a role afterwards. So in general, we pass in like the Rambam. We don't make brachas after. But number one, there's a machlokas. Then there's a separate machlokas achronim. Is could you make a bracha on a hidur mitzvah? Because once you light the first candle, everything else after, as the Gemara tells us also, if we went a little further, the Gemara gives different levels to fulfill the mitzvah of Chanukah. So the basic mitzvah is Ner Ishu Beso. If you lit one candle every night of Chanukah, no one can take the mitzvah away from you. You didn't fulfill Mahajjan, but you fulfill your mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. So they point out, so let's say you lit, so the question is, so anytime you lit the first candle and now you haven't made a bracha, can you make a bracha on a hiddur? So that's in general machlokas among the poskim. That's the second machlokas. And the third machlokas is even if you assume that you can't make a bracha on a hiddur mitzvah, but here maybe this Chanukah is another issue, but it's something called a mitzvah nimsheches. Certain mitzvahs you do and that's it. It's a one-time shot, it's over. But let's say a talus, let's say you forgot to make a bracha, let's say certain times you might have to put on the talus early and you want to make the bracha later. So certain things that the mitzvah is still going on, so then poskim say, even though on a normal mitzvah you can't make a bracha before, but if the mitzvah is still going on, like wearing a talus, let's say you can. So too here, the zman is acheticha regel min hashuk. So at least if it's within the half an hour, we could have further discussion if it's 2 hours later, and even if it's still going, you have a further discussion. But at least within the first half an hour, so it's still the Zman HaMitzvah according to everybody. So therefore, so the siruf of all those shitas, so many poskim say then, in that case you could still make a bracha. Because maybe, number one, you can have the Or Zarua, you can make a bracha after the mitzvah. And even if not, maybe you can make a bracha on a hiddur mitzvah. And even if not, it's a mitzvah nimsheches, so it's still going on. So with the siruf of all those shitas, the poskim ameiko, that you could still make a bracha, after you lit, within this certain time frame.
Is the bracha on the lighting or that they are lit?
Right, so the different brachas, but the halach near shel Chanukah. From the Lashon Pashas, we assume, in fact, that's the Gemara, hadlaka osa mitzvah. So again, that can tie in. That's what we're going to get into about mitzvah mishatishka chama, whether you can do a ma'isa mitzvah before the kiyama mitzvah. Pashas, the mitzvah is the actual lighting, but but it fit into what we were saying, that part of the mitzvah is to pursue Nisa. So the Maisa mitzvah is happening, but it's going on the whole. That's what Shas Nisa really is on, and Shechiyanu, the first. That's the whole discussion. The nature. When should you say? When do you lie? When do you make the brachas? Etc. We'll get into.
So you're only talking about the Hadlik here.
Yeah.
The Shas Nisim.
Yeah, those for sure. Those even though that's a question. Our meaning is we do Shas Nisim before, but that's the discussion. The Achronim. Some say only Lahalik Ner Shol. That's the whole discussion. The Rav had say Chassidim that I think I'm not sure if it was the Rav's practice. This is the Machlokas who used to light, some of it might have been the Rav, I'm not 100%, but I think he lit after against the Ramah, after he made Lahalik Ner Shol Chanukah, before Shas Nisim. So in terms of, the standard minhag is you make all the brachas first and then you light, but...
No, actually, some of us light while you say Shas Nisim.
Right, I'm saying, but I think or maybe during Shas Nisim he have to check. But now he had a different minhag than the classic minhag. And how to do? What's the nature of Shas Nisim? Is it a B'yach Shevach Valda? So he gets into the whole discussion there.
When Lubavitch, or I don't know, whoever lights in a public place, do you make a bracha? It's not a bite.
Exactly. So clearly Lubavitch Rabbi probably says yes, I assume. But the Rav was definitely against it. He spoke about it. He spoke about it many times. About it's clear.
How do you make a bracha?
No. The issue is it gets into another topic of which we could get into next week. Is because it says Madlikim Levarchim Bebeis HaKnesses. So what's bad in that? Then if you assume like the Meiri out pursuing Nisa, no one's in shul today, but more people are in City Hall. That's what it's probably based on. The Rav obviously felt it was a special takana. Even the Britzkos were machmed afterwards. Mincha Ma'ariv. If you're not going to daven Mincha Ma'ariv together, we'll get into it next week. He wouldn't even. That's why even Friday was a big shaila about if you could dislight in the. But he said the takana was specifically only in the Beis HaKnesses. And the Rav felt very strongly against lighting even at Sheva Bra anywhere. If you're not doing it in your home, he was totally against it. We'll get to that next week. So they point out. So we had the two sheets. So we have Bizban HaGemara. If you lit after Achatichel, can you light after Achatichel Regel Min Hashuk? The Rambam, no, the mitzvah is over. The Rashba, yes, and Tosafos' doubt is Mesupik. He says light b'Torah suffix seems to be the issue between the Rambam and Rashba. It's an interesting fourth sheet there from the Sefer HaTrumas. They quote, he says, what's the problem? After Ashaticha Regel Min Hashuk, light inside. Again, I'm talking about Bizman HaGemara. The time in the Gemara, he's saying, what's the issue here? If you're in between this time, the takana was to light outside, but after Tikkun Rashuk, go light inside. So this seems to go against Tosafos, the Sefer HaTrumas. Why? Because Tosafos is assuming, because if I didn't quote you the end of Tosafos, but Tosafos says, first Tosafos goes through the 2 days, and then he says, however, Bisman Hazeh, it's not an issue anymore. Because since we light inside, the Zman and the mitzvah change, and you can light the Torah's Vadai inside today. So apparently Tosafos is clearly assuming Bizman HaGemara, there wasn't an option. But he says, Bizman HaZeh, it's okay, you can light inside. But clearly Bizman HaGemara, Tosafos is assuming that there was no concept of lighting Chanukah candles inside. So what is this machlokas we've shown in base? It seems to be a machlokas, a Sefer HaTrumas against Tosafos and others. So there's a Gemara later on which says, B'shat HaSakana, again, same page, Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. The Gemara tells us the mitzvah to light outside, you're surrounded by mitzvahs, mezuzah on one side, Ner Chanukah on another. And if you're on an attic, you should light on top where people can look out the window. And then the Gemara says, U'b'shat HaSakana, Meiniach al Shulchan U'v'dayo. The time of danger, you can put it on your table and that's enough. So, what's pshat? Is that a new takana? Is the Gemara telling me like discovering America here? It's a new takana. You know what? And now, up until now, there was no concept. Shasa sakana and Machlokes Rashi Tosas what the Shasa sakana was. We'll learn like Tosas it was religious persecution, which is a separate question. Then why did they, why did they have to risk their lives in that? But we'll get etc. in that. But in terms of why was that a new takana? So the Tosas is learning it was. Obviously, there was no concept before. And therefore now is the first time they decided we could light inside because of Shas Sakana. And Sefer Trumas is saying no, it's just an observation. Really, you could always light inside. Obviously, ideally, this pursuing Nisa is more outside, but you could always light inside. We only told you to light outside because it's better. But in a situation where you missed it, then light inside. So depends how you learn that light in the Gemara. Is it a new takana d'Rabbanan, and now we're introducing a new concept? You know what? You can light inside. Well, no, you always can light inside. That they never did it. But now okay, now bring it inside. But not that we're introducing a new. That seems to be the Machlokes, the Sefer Trumas, and the Balitos, and I'll show you, this is also Machlokes, the Vilna Gaon Magen Avram.
So, what I don't understand is, the Rambam says you can only light during that time period. So he obviously must hold that you can't light inside. Because if you can light inside, then what's the shuk got to do with anything?
No, I mean, it wasn't, what about lighting inside during that time period?
Okay, so you light...
No, that's just... But he also says, the Rambam is consistent, he says you can't light before Shkia either. The Rambam says that will get, that's a different Machlokes Rambam Rashba. Okay, if you light before Shkia, the Rambam says no, the Rashba says yes.
Okay, before you can understand because it's like a previous day kind of thing. But afterwards, so the whole point of it for that is because there's nobody in the street anymore. So there's no more Pesuma Nisa. But if you're doing inside, there's no Pesuma Nisa in any case.
Right,
so why would the Rambam say anything, if afterwards you do it, then it's not counted? In other words, you're not allowed to do it afterwards.
No, because you're saying, it must be, unless, right, if we assume lighting inside there's no presuming Nisa, then you're right, then obviously according to the Rambam, he seems to assume that wasn't an option, yeah.
So not an option to light inside?
Right, it seems to be, the simple shot is, the way most would have learned, is that it was a new takana. Mm-hmm. It seemed to, at least to me it was when I always learned the sugya, I assumed it was outside, and then the Sefer Trumas to me was a tremendous chiddush that I don't want to point out, but this Machlokes Sefer Trumas and the Bali Tosa seems to be the same issue, seems to revolve with the Machlokes, the Magen Avram and the Vilna Gaon. What Machlokes am I talking about? So the Machaber writes in Shulchan Aruch, it's also the sugya, that we know Asil Hishtamish La'ora. There's a fundamental difference between Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah. Ner Shabbos is dafka for the light. Ner Chanukah, it's Asil Hishtamish La'ora. You can't count your money by, you can't do things. It's a bizarre mitzvah. And the Machaber writes, Afilu Tashmishe Mitzvah. The Machaber writes in Shulchan Aruch. And even Tashmishe Mitzvah you can't use by Ner Chanukah. So the question they all ask on the Machaber is, where did you get that from? The Gemara doesn't say, in other words, the Chiddush, the Gemara says, I understand counting change, doing a davar chol, that I understand. But how does the Machaber know, what's his raya, that even Tashmishe Mitzvah, that you can't learn by the candles, or you can't even do a mitzvah? So the Vilna Gaon says, what do you mean? It's a Gemara. To the Vilna Gaon, it's a Mefurish Gemara. To everyone else, it's at best it's an implied Gemara. When is its Gemara? The Gemara is a couple of pages later. Chaf Gimel Chaf Daled, the sugya I was talking about before. The Gemara wants to know what happens if you only have enough money for Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah. So the Gemara says Ner Shabbos Adaf Bishum Shalom Bayis, and then Ner Chanukah is pursuing Nisa. So the Vilna Gaon asks, why did the Gemara give a simple answer? Why did the Gemara answer, use one candle for both? If you're stuck, if you don't have two candles, okay, so you have one candle, why can't you use the same candle for Ner Shabbos and near Chanukah. That's the Vilna Gaon's kasha. He says, but then the fact the Gemara did not suggest it, it's because if you used it for near Chanukah, I feel with Tashmishel mitzvah, even as a mitzvah of near Shabbos, you still won't be able to use it. That's what the Vilna Gaon wants to say, that the reason why the Gemara didn't suggest it, because this is where the Machaber got her from, that we see from here, even Tashmishel mitzvah is forbidden for near Chanukah. That's why the Gemara did not give that possibility. That's the Vilna Gaon. Comes over the Magen Avraham and says, what do you see? That's the same question, but he gets a totally different answer. And the answer that makes a lot of sense, if you hold like Tosfos, that is. So the Magen Avraham says, you know why the Gemara didn't suggest it? It's very simple, because, let me check, where do we light near Shabbos? We light near Shabbos inside the home, Shalom Bayis. We light near Chanukah outside. How could you use one candle? Well, you put it with the door open, or unless you find some heichatim so you could get inside and outside. So what? Of course, the Gemara didn't suggest it. It's an impossibility. So, but what do we see? The Magen Avraham is clearly assuming, like Tosfos, that der Bisman HaGemara, there wasn't an option of lighting inside. And the Vilna Gaon is assuming there was an option, because that's why in the Vilna Gaon, you have the fact he comes on to Tashmish Shel Mitzvah, if it's two different places, there's nothing to the question. The Vilna Gaon thought it was a good question, he had to give another answer. The Magen Avraham says, what kind of question is that? It's impossible to do both. So however the Magen Avraham says, that's Bisman HaGemara, it was impossible to do both. However, he says, you're right, Bisman HaZeh, the Magen Avraham says, B'derech Efshar, he doesn't give us the details of what bracha you make, 1, 2, none, but he says, yeah, he says, if B'shas HaChak, then you'd be able to use one candle for Chanukah and Shabbos. The only reason the Gemara didn't suggest it because the takana was only to light outside then. There was no mitzvah to light inside. But now that the takana is changed, a B'shas takana, you're right, you could use one candle. Of course it's not ideal, but the other choice is what? Don't do one of the mitzvahs? So what can I do? I'm stuck. So what could you do? Use one candle for both. That's what the Magen Avraham suggests. And I just want to take the Magen Avraham even further. We don't have to worry about that Bisman Hazeh. Because, if you're not in a home, so then you don't have to light Chanukah. That's the whole question. Why not? Tosfos. In other words, a homeless person is exempt from near Chanukah. In other words, we know, let's go back a step. A homeless person is exempt from having a mezuzah. If you don't have a home, then no one would say that you have to put up a mezuzah on your park bench or whatever. However, the child, what about near Chanukah? So it's clear a homeless person is exempt. The question, it's a shaila in the Achronim, why is he exempt? Is near Chanukah like mezuzah, a chovas habayis, and that's why I know. Maybe near Chanukah is a chovas hagavra. I haven't been honest. It's not that I am chayiv, but I can't. But either way, the nafkamis we'll discuss next week. So they point out that so Bisman Hazeh, today we have electric in our house, and in fact, so therefore, one is permitted for Shabbos lights to use electric. By electric, I mean an incandescent bulb versus fluorescent or LED lights, because you need a burning filament. That's why I always say, as a hypothetical, is it better to have in your house only fluorescent lights or only incandescent? Maybe it's best to have both, but I'm just making them. I'm just
in the morning, Shabbos?
What?
In case you switch it on.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so the pros and cons. So if you have fluorescent lights, you can never machal Shabbos, minat Torah, and even midrabanan, because I'm assuming we're talking about someone who's accidentally going to put it on. So we know if you do a drabanan mishogeg, you don't even need kapara. That's a separate share, but therefore you can't go wrong with fluorescent. However, in terms of mitzvahs aseh, you're in trouble if you don't have a candle and you want to do near Shabbos, or if you want to do Havdalah. That's what the famous with Chaim Ozer, when the whole thing with the electric came out, and it's still a big enigma, but it was definitely an enigma then, and people thought you could, Rosh Shulchan talks about turning lights on Yontif, not Shabbos. So he b'dafka made Havdalah on a light bulb to show that no, it's Aish, and you can't use it on. So Rav Chaim Ozer was very big on that then for another reason, but today, most of the poskim assume, I wouldn't say all, but many poskim assume an electric light is considered Aish. Even Rav Moshe, he was concerned about making a bracha, but we don't assume like Rav Moshe. Today, halach l'maisam, many poskim say you can even make a bracha on a light bulb, and therefore, let's say for Friday night you don't have a candle, you can make the bracha. In fact, some people, let's say, don't like, if they're going to leave home and they're going to be away for a couple of hours, they don't want to leave the candle going, so then I recommend them just making the bracha on the electric. And in fact, not only that, but as Rav Soloveitchik pointed out, and Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky as well, the Rav Yaakov, when they used to go to a hotel, maybe they're good to convention, whenever he went to a hotel, but so his wife, obviously like all traditional women, especially during that time, they wanted, come on, Hanukkah's neighbors can't be over electric, I need a candle, you got to do it. So she always wants, so he told her, okay, turn on a light in the hotel room, in the room that you're sleeping in, like whatever the bathroom, and then go down and have in mind and make your bracha. But the Rav says that all the time. The Iker light today is our electric, not from the candles. That's only Tosefes or. So he recommends every Friday night, before you light candles, you go and shut off and turn back on any light you want to use for Shabbos, and then you make the bracha on the candle, because the candles are really Tosefes or today. So therefore, really, that's the Iker or today. So therefore, bottom line is, we pass, you could use electric light for Ner Shabbos. I'm taking the Magen Avram a step further. Based on the Magen Avram, or even without the Magen Avram, it wouldn't be a Shaila today, because for Shabbos candles you use the electric light. If you only have one candle, you use it for Ner Chanukah, because we pass in basically electric doesn't work for Ner Chanukah. It's not doing the mikdash. There's no maybe mais hanuka that it has to be consumed as generated, maybe battery, the whole issue on the planes, the whole discussion. But b'shas hatzchak, if that's all you had, I'd light an electric menorah without a bracha. But bottom line, we assume, and it's good as an extra if you want to do Persumei Nisa, put one outside in your house. But in terms of as a general normative psak, we don't assume you could use electric candles for your menorah, and therefore you make the bracha on candles. If you only have one candle, make it on Chanukah and you have your electric. But the point I'm getting at, this machlokas, the Magen Avram and the Vilna Gaon, is totally on this issue. Bizman HaGemara, was there ever a concept of lighting candles inside the house? So we said the Sefer HaTruma seems to say a big chiddush. Say, yeah, if it's after Ashaticha recommend Ashuk, go light in your house. And Tosas clearly said that wasn't an option, Bizman HaGemara. However, and it seems to be a big chiddush, it seems to be the Vilna Gaon seems to be working with the Sefer HaTruma. The fact that he says this is a raya for the Mechaber, that the reason why you can't use one candle for both is because you can't use them, because I feel with Tashva Shel Mitzvah, sorry, he didn't give the obvious reason is, what kind of question is that? Chanukah candles is outside, Shabbat candles is inside, so it's clear he's working with the sheet of the Sefer HaTruma. So that's to summarize. Yeah.
So why did he say that if it's after the time, go and light inside? Why if it's after the time, still light outside? So there's no people, so they won't see it.
It's a good question. I assume the Sefer HaTruma is learned at least inside. You're there. I mean, your family. You have the original. So again, that gets into the original takana. Definitely, that seems to be a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Where did you light in the chutzner? Was it the chutzner closer to you? Who is the ikar person? Everyone agrees Persumei Nisa for the outside and for the inside. It seems to me the Zman HaGemara, the ikar was the outside and inside was secondary. The Zman HaZeh might be the reverse. But that's what you have to assume. Good question, yeah. So just to summarize, we discussed the Gemara which says Mitzvah Misha Tishka HaChama Ad Shetichel Regel Min HaShuk. So we said, what is it coming to tell me? So the Gemara says that these are telling me the ego ad with maduk. If I have them lit, then this is the time I can light. Or inam is sure, it doesn't do with the time, it's how much oil you need. So we had 4 sheetas on what happens with Bizman HaGemara, you missed that Shetichel Regel Min HaShuk. So the Rambam says that's it, your mitzvah's over. The Rashba says, no, it's like any other mitzvah, it's kol halayla, you missed the idea, but still do it. And that seems to be, could you separate Persumei Nisa from the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, which seems to be the issue of Bizman HaZeh, at 2 a.m., you're alone, could you make the bracha? Now, as the Mishnah Berurah says, Mavarach lo hifsid, so we seem to go with the Rashba's lamdis, that we assume there is a concept of Ner Chanukah with a minimal Pursumei Nisa, because the Rambam seems to say, because there is some Pursumei Nisa, but obviously not enough in terms of what he felt the Takana was. And then we had the third Shita, Tosas was Mesupik. Is it like the Rambam or Rashba? And then we had the Sefer Trumas, tremendous Chiddush right inside. And we saw, and what's based on the Gemara, B'Shasa Sakana, was that a new Takana D'Rabbanan? Or is that just an observation? That's when they woke up and finally did it, but they could have done it anytime they wanted. And that seems to be here, the Machlokas, the Vilna Gaon, and the Machaber, about why didn't the Gemara suggest use one candle for both? So the Magen Avraham says the obvious answer, because one's outside, one's inside. And the Vilna Gaon says this is the source for the Machaber, even Tashmishi Shel Mitzvah. Just to conclude with the Sfas Emes, the Rav Shechter likes quoting all the time, that why was it? We know the Gemara says the takana was to light outside, and then b'shas sakana we moved the candles inside. So the Sfas Emes says al derech drush. He says so. What's the because bisman in the zman hakadmonim back in the day, but I guess they had the ghettos and all that. So basically, the Jewish home was safe. That was Jewish. And the foreign influence was outside, and the trick was you put your neighbor's Hanukkah on the outside, keep the foreign influence out, keep the Or HaTorah in. But Bisman Hazeh, and certainly even a lot more than the Sfas Emes probably even knew, today with internet, TV, papers, all that, we already have the foreign influence in our home, so we bring the candles in. Our job now is to Makadish, make our home Jewish. We try to bring, and that's why that was the whole Nakuda, because one of the things the Greeks fought against was the bias. They made the Gemara about you had to leave the door open. It was all about trying to break up the Jewish home. They made an institution for Milah, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, all the things unique to the Jewish people. Milah physically, Rosh Chodesh, the lunar calendar, Shabbos. It was an attack against the Jewish home and therefore that's why. We'll get into more, but that's why perhaps it's a Chovas Habayis Chanukah. The mitzvahs on the home is our job now is, it used to be to keep out the foreign influence. Now our job is to try to get back the Jewish influence inside our home.